It's the day of the big race, and I am beyond excited. I too want to prove I have legs. But I need to prepare for something like this. I heard my competition was a soup can. I don't stand a chance where I'm at right now. Which is why I've chosen to delve into a facet of games I refuse to look in the eye. The ESRB rating. This is starting to make a lot more sense. Time trials are a staple of many level-based video games, and they all exercise the act of doing something quickly. Have you ever seen me doing my brownie speedrun? This is something in games that I usually overlook. I don't really like speedrunning games that much. I typically like to enjoy games at my own pace. But in these, I have to compete with a clock mocking me in the corner of the screen. However, I have dabbled in some of these modes over the years. Not enough to where I can call myself a professional runner, but enough to where I can confidently talk about most of their quirks. When I think of time trials, I think the first thing that pops into my head is the Mario Kart series. These games were made for speedrunning through the tracks, going for the best times, and trying to beat the ghosts. But I don't play on this mode all too much. The only time I'd ever visit these is if I was really bored, or if there were an obscene amount of unlockable content within it. Have I invoked the name of the devil? Mario Kart Wii is the only one of these games that I'd be willing to get drunk over because of how insane the items are, which is why I enjoy it to the extent that I do. But the time trials in this game are boring. I think the track selection in this game works best under the conditions that you're flying out and about on the courses, bumping into other drivers on the course. The only reason why I would play this compared to this is if I was dying to play as Toadette, because the select few characters are locked behind through playing this thing, and after knowing that, I feel no remorse. However, I have gone through and played Mario Kart 8's time trials, and they're the same. But on the 200cc difficulty, I've used this as a good practice for the really tight turns that are found within the tracks. And when I do try and beat the staff ghosts, I see it as a final exam for the course. It's the test of everything you know about the stage. Can you properly take turns? Are you taking the fastest shortcuts? And why am I in reverse? It doesn't hide its unlockables behind this, except for the gold tires, but I'll allow it. I feel like time trials in Mario Kart 8 are somewhat bearable because playing these tracks can be somewhat difficult in 200cc, and this provides some necessary practice that gives me the time to work on my turns and drifts. While we do have a stinker, we also have a shining example. What do you mean there are other games in the series? Crash Bandicoot is basically the PlayStation equivalent of Mario. He's what I see as the face of the PlayStation brand, even if his games were only really prominent on the PlayStation 1. And I quite like Crash games. They're honestly the only PlayStation 1 games I can warrant booting up. But in Crash Bandicoot Warped, they introduced something that I can't imagine the series without. The Time Relics. In the Insane Trilogy remakes of the first 3 Crash Bandicoot games, they added the Time Relics to every game in the collection, which is a neat little thing. But if I'm gonna speak from the heart on this one, I kinda hate these. Crash Bandicoot is always where I play through it at my own pace, discovering crates, making sure I check every nook of every cranny. But getting the time relics are a chore. There are 3 types of relics: Sapphire, Gold, and Platinum. The Sapphire relics are for the losers. They don't take much effort to get, just get to the end without dilly-dallying. And while the Gold relics are also not of the highest caliber, it takes a bit of effort to achieve them. You have to actually know the level's design and layout. But the Platinum relic, I couldn't even finish that sentence. These things are a speedrunner's best friend. In other words, I hate them more than you could ever imagine. I've gotten a few of them, but the slow platforming of Crash Bandicoot does not warrant this level of speed and precision. And it doesn't help that they're near impossible to get, or at least if you're stupid like me. I think I might have left the oven on. Something like this works in Mario Kart because the levels were built around going fast, while these levels were built around linear exploration. And that isn't saying only racing games should have time trials. I'm just saying that if the gameplay doesn't have the capability of being fastly paced, it probably won't fit the time trial format that well. And on top of that, it could really use some apes. My prayers have finally been answered. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is easily one of the best 2D platformers I have ever played. The levels here are imaginative, fluid, and have just the right length. I might even go as far as to say that this is one of my favorite games of all time. But there are time trials in this game. Are they good and fun with fast-paced gameplay, or do they fall victim to the same impossibility that plagued Crash Bandicoot? Yes. The Donkey Kong Country gameplay makes it feel great to just run through these levels, bouncing on enemies, barrel rolling, spike hopping. It is all pure bliss. And there are 3 levels of achievement you can go for in this mode: Bronze, Silver, and Gold. And while not impossible, the gold medals are still quite a bit of a challenge to go through, as it takes knowledge of the level's layout in order to successfully make it in time. But there's just one problem I have with it. There is a secret level of medals dubbed as Shiny Gold. This is starting to make a lot more sense. These are some of the most impossible collectibles I have ever sought in any video game. You practically have to know the level inside and out if you ever want a chance of getting one of these. But even that isn't enough, because the level of precision that some of these require is beyond baffling. but I love them anyway. Yeah, after a trick, deceived, and stabbed me, we still became good friends. That once again stems from how well the Donkey Kong Country gameplay fits into the time trial format. Sometimes, when I'm on vacation or something, getting through these proves to be an excellent time waster. I only got to World 3 before I set it down, but I'm proud of where I stand on the global leaderboards for some levels, because being good at Donkey Kong automatically makes you a better person. In all, this is probably my favorite rendition of time trials in any game out there. But what about games with some time trial elements in the mix? Super Mario Odyssey doesn't have a time trial mode. If it did, it would have to prepare. But it does have a few minigames that I consider to be a fair replacement. There's this RC car minigame that's found in New Donk City, which is pretty fun for 5 minutes. It kinda reminds me of Mario Kart, but it only has one track and it's pretty shallow. But the Koopa Freerunners offer a much better cork to fill that time trial shaped hole. It isn't in depth at all. You just start at one point of the map and you have to make it to the goal by any means necessary. But while it might seem like there's not much to do at first, there are several paths you can take to ensure a different experience. And this is available in every kingdom, or at least every kingdom that matters. It's a fine little attraction that I don't mind hopping into while going around and hunting for moons. But the Bound Bowl Grand Prix is the epitome of what this game can offer in terms of a time trial mode. You bounce around the track and walls in order to keep momentum going until you get to the finish. It can get pretty hectic sometimes, and even though it only has 2 tracks, it took up a good amount of my time. Just think about it, with all that wasted time, I could have actually done something with my life. But New Super Mario Bros. Has other plans. New Super Luigi U is a game that exists. But what if I don't want it to? The New Super Mario Bros. Series is plagued by unoriginality and lack of enthusiasm. I had to reiterate that it's been a week since I last complained about it. But New Super Luigi U changes things up quite a bit, and the source of that change being the little clock in the corner. Right when you start a level, the timer is only set to 100, making it a rush to get to the end of the stage. And while this is mostly based off New Super Mario Bros. U, I think it's way better than that game because even though all the levels are just remixed from that game, their gimmicks and pace are at the forefront here. Even though at its core, it doesn't really fit the moniker of time trials, but I'd still defend it in court. I have nothing else going on. But that brings up the argument of what constitutes a time trial mode. Is it a mode in a game where the point is to go fast through the game's levels? Is it a competition to receive the best time on a stage paired up with the rest of the world? Is it just a bunch of levels from the base game spruced up and having a strict time limit? I don't know the answer to that question, but I do think Warioware is pretty funny. Warioware is what I see as a series that is only fun because of its time restrictions. You have to complete each of the minigames it throws at you in record time, only being given mere seconds. This is a true test of reflexes, because even if you know how to beat every micro game quickly, you don't know which one you're going to get next, which really keeps you on your toes. And because the game gets quicker the farther you get into it, my adrenaline is at an all-time high when I'm nearing my high score. And the mix of all that adrenaline and reflex really got me to show that I am ready for this big race. I am going to tell that soup can who's boss. So none of that ended up happening. When I started the race, I was so full of energy, I knocked the soup can to the finish. Oh, and I kicked so hard my foot made contact with my forehead. But I've learned a lot from this experience. For one, don't make competition with the soup can, because apparently they've played Warioware too.